Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Starz Recapped. Today, we're diving into one of the most heartfelt and visually stunning sci fi adventures ever created, Wall-E, released in the year 2008. In a future where Earth has been abandoned and left in ruins, one lonely robot continues his daily task of cleaning up the planet until a mysterious visitor changes everything. Get ready for a journey filled with emotion, action, and a powerful message about humanity, love, and the future of our planet. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie yet, you've been warned. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the unforgettable story of Wall-E. The story unfolds in a distant future, around the 29th century. Earth, once vibrant and full of life, is now a barren wasteland. The planet is engulfed in a thick haze of dust, and massive heaps of garbage dominate the landscape. Skyscraper-sized mounds of waste stretch across deserted cities with no sign of human life in sight. The environment is harsh, air quality is poor, vegetation is non-existent, and storms constantly sweep through the atmosphere. Amidst this desolate scenery, a small and diligent robot roams the empty streets. Its mission? To collect trash and compress it into neat little blocks. This robot, the last of its kind still functioning, tirelessly continues its task of tidying up the world. Alongside it is its only companion, a lively cockroach that tags along wherever it goes. This lonely robot has been at work for so long, its stacks of compacted waste resemble towering structures. During its day, it stumbles upon unusual objects, sometimes keeping them as treasures. As it moves through the forgotten remains of civilization, upbeat tunes from centuries past echo through the cityscape. Scattered around are broken down units of similar machines, hinting at a massive cleanup effort that once took place. Through old projections and recordings, it's revealed that a global corporation had launched a plan to evacuate humans into space, placing them aboard colossal starships while robots were left behind to clean up Earth. One of those vessels, the Axiom, now hosts what's left of humanity, living lives of comfort, seemingly disconnected from the fate of their home planet. After a long day of tidying up the planet, the little robot heads back to his personal hideout, an old abandoned transport vehicle that once carried machines like him. Inside, he has created a cozy shelter filled with objects he's picked up during his work. From quirky trinkets to strange gadgets, his home is a museum of forgotten human artifacts. Over time, this robot has developed a curious and almost emotional side. He carefully places his newest finds, a shiny disc and a colorful puzzle cube, among his growing collection. To unwind, he watches clips from classic romance films, clearly intrigued by the scenes where people hold hands and walk together through peaceful settings. There's a sense of longing in him, a quiet desire for connection in a world that's completely deserted. Despite his efforts to stay cheerful, it's clear that this little robot is deeply lonely. As night falls, the little robot closes the door to his shelter, just in time to shield himself from a powerful dust storm rolling through the wasteland. Inside, he offers a snack to his cockroach companion, then folds himself neatly into a compact form, ready for rest. The following morning, he powers on slowly, appearing a bit drained. We soon learn that his energy source is the sun. To recharge, he positions himself under direct sunlight for a few moments until he's fully active again. Once ready, he grabs his metal lunchbox and resumes his daily mission, organizing and compacting the endless debris scattered across the planet. As he works, he also collects various knickknacks that spark his curiosity, strange toys, gadgets, and keepsakes. But one day, his usual routine is interrupted. He stumbles upon a locked refrigerator. With some effort, he manages to open it and discovers something extraordinary inside, a tiny living plant pushing its way through the soil. Amazed by this rare sign of life, he carefully takes the sprout back to his home, sensing that it might be something very important. Back at his shelter, something unusual catches the robot's attention, a small, glowing red light dancing on the ground. Curious, he reaches for it, but the dot quickly darts away. Intrigued, he follows it through the ruins of the city, chasing it between piles of debris and abandoned structures. Then, without warning, dozens, then hundreds of similar glowing dots begin to appear, scattered across buildings and junk piles. They all begin moving, gradually converging on his location. The ground trembles beneath him, and the sky darkens as a colossal spacecraft begins its descent. The robot finds himself trapped beneath the roar of the ship's fiery thrusters. unable to escape before being partially buried under the rubble. Overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the ship and what it might mean, he cautiously tries to crawl away. Just then, a section of the massive vessel opens, and a mysterious pod is gently released onto the surface below. The mysterious pod begins to hum with energy and reshapes itself, eventually revealing a sleek, white robot with a high-tech design. Once activated, the new arrival immediately begins surveying the surroundings, as if on a mission to locate something important. Watching from a distance, the trash-collecting robot hides again when the massive spacecraft reignites its engines and lifts off, leaving the planet behind. Now alone, the advanced newcomer shows off her impressive capabilities, hovering smoothly, darting through the air with grace and speed, and covering large areas with ease. The older robot is clearly fascinated. Her design, elegance, and agility are unlike anything he's seen before. But when he accidentally makes a sound, the newcomer swiftly turns defensive. She fires an energy blast at the boulder he's hiding behind, narrowly missing him. Fortunately, she doesn't notice him and moves on. She continues to glide through the ruins, scanning different spots around the abandoned city. Curious and cautious, the little robot follows her from a safe distance. Things take an unexpected turn when his insect companion, unaware of the danger, approaches the stranger. The newcomer reacts aggressively at first and fires, but soon her attitude shifts. She warms up to the little bug, beginning to show a gentler side. Despite the older robot's attempts to get her attention, the advanced visitor remains distant. She briefly tries to interact by asking his name, but when he doesn't respond, she loses interest and moves on. Over the next few days, the newcomer tirelessly scans location after location, clearly searching for something very specific, but without any luck. Meanwhile, the little robot continues to trail behind her, eager to connect and offer friendship, though she pays him little mind. Frustration eventually gets the better of her. After yet another fruitless day of searching, she accidentally gets caught on a powerful magnet. Overwhelmed and irritated, she loses her temper, blasting the magnet in anger and unintentionally damaging several fuel containers nearby. After this chaotic moment, something shifts between them. The two finally begin to communicate. She reveals her name, Eve. Unlike the trash-compacting robot's simple and repetitive routine, Eve has a top-secret assignment, one that seems far more important. Despite their differences, a connection slowly starts to form between them. Wall-E struggles a bit with speech, often stammering through words, which surprisingly amuses the high-tech visitor. Slowly, a connection begins to form between them, growing into an unlikely friendship. One day, a violent dust storm begins to build. The visitor, unfamiliar with Earth's harsh conditions, seems unsure of how to handle it. Wall-E quickly invites her into the safety of his makeshift shelter inside an old truck. Inside, she's introduced to a wide assortment of odd human relics he's collected over time. Eve, with her advanced systems, instantly solves a colorful puzzle cube in a blink, leaving Wall-E amazed. As they continue exploring his collection, Wall-E plays an old musical on a screen. Eve watches with wonder, even scanning the footage with interest. Inspired, they try to mimic the dance from the film, but Eve's powerful frame and built-in weapons make it a bit chaotic. Wall-E ends up thrown into the walls by her uncontrolled movements. Despite the crash, Wall-E doesn't hold it against her. He calmly fixes himself and continues showing her more of his cherished finds. One item in particular, a lighter, fascinates Eve. She watches the small flame flicker with deep interest. Encouraged by their bonding moment, Wall-E awkwardly tries to hold her hand, mirroring the romantic scene from the film, but she gently brushes him off and refocuses on analyzing the footage. Hoping to impress her, Wall-E then reveals something special, the small plant he discovered earlier. Eve immediately scans it and her system glows green, clearly indicating that this is what she's been looking for. Without saying a word, she activates a containment field around the plant and enters a powered-down state, completely unresponsive. Wall-E, alarmed by this sudden shutdown, tries desperately to wake her. But no matter what he does, she doesn't react. Concerned for his new companion, he carries her outside the next day, placing her in the sunlight in hopes she'll recharge. But even under the bright sun and sweltering heat, Eve remains still and silent. Months pass, and Wall-E remains faithfully by Eve's side. Through pouring rain, shifting seasons, and dusty storms, he does everything he can to protect her, wiping off dirt, shielding her from weather, and hoping she'll wake up. But no matter how much care he gives, she stays motionless. Still, Wall-E refuses to leave her behind. He carries her with him wherever he goes, sharing quiet walks, floating boat rides, and even watching sunsets together. But over time, sadness starts to weigh on him. Eventually, he gently sets her back at his shelter and tries to return to his old routine, organizing trash and collecting artifacts, one pile at a time. One day, while working alongside his cockroach companion, Wally spots a familiar spacecraft descending from the sky. It's the same ship that brought Eve to Earth. Alarmed, he rushes back and sees Eve being retrieved and loaded aboard, placed among other machines. He calls out for her, but she remains unresponsive, and the ship begins its ascent. Refusing to be left behind, Wall-E races after it, launching himself from a platform and clinging to the craft as it leaves Earth's atmosphere. Soon, he's drifting in space, his home planet growing distant behind him. As the ship glides through the solar system, Wall-E peers through a small window, trying to share the breathtaking view with Eve. Stars, planets, and glowing galaxies stretching out before them. He even gets a much-needed energy boost while passing near the sun. Eventually, the ship docks with a massive space station known as the Axiom, a floating city inhabited by machines and the remains of humanity. Upon arrival, the ship is refueled, and various robots begin processing Eve and the other units on board. Wall-E, who doesn't belong there, is quickly flagged as an unknown and contaminated object. To avoid being captured or shut down, he cleverly hides and evades the security scans, determined to stay close to Eve and uncover the truth behind her mysterious mission. As the repair bots begin scanning Eve, a green signal suddenly flashes across the facility. It triggers an immediate response. Dozens of service droids rush in, carefully place her on a transport platform, and carry her away toward a lift. Wall-E, unwilling to let her out of his sight, hurries after them. When the elevator doors open on another level, Wall-E finds himself completely overwhelmed. The area is buzzing with activity. Thousands of machines moving in fast, organized lanes that resemble a chaotic traffic system. Intimidated by the speed and density of the movement, he struggles to navigate the flow. Despite his hesitation, he gathers his courage and finally dives into the stream of motion, determined to catch up with Eve. As he switches lanes, something unexpected catches his attention. Humans. For the first time, Wall-E sees people, but they look nothing like the images from his old recordings. Due to generations in a low-gravity environment, everyone appears physically altered, sitting in floating chairs that carry them effortlessly through the massive station. They remain focused on digital screens in front of them, speaking to friends via video feeds, even when those friends are seated just inches away. Wall-E quickly realizes that the people barely move on their own anymore. They rely entirely on automated systems, machines that deliver their meals, bring drinks, handle communication, and cater to their every need. It's a society built entirely on comfort and convenience, but one that seems disconnected from the world around it. The station is packed with people gliding around in hover chairs, so many in fact that they begin to create a slow-moving traffic jam. Most of them are completely unaware of their surroundings, fixated on their personal screens and virtual interactions. Amid the crowd, one man mistakes Wall-E for a helper droid. He waves him over, asking for a refill on his drink. When Wall-E doesn't respond, the man leans forward and accidentally tumbles off his chair, left helpless on the ground. With no assistance bot arriving in time, Wall-E steps in and helps the man back into his seat. Gratefully, the man introduces himself as John. Wall-E, still intent on locating Eve, inquires about her. However, John, looking confused, admits he doesn't know anyone by that name. Just then, Wall-E spots Eve in one of the moving lanes and immediately says goodbye to John, rushing off to catch up. He leaps onto a high-speed transit vehicle that's carrying her across the ship. As the transport zips along, Wall-E gets his first glimpse of what life on the station is truly like. Promotional displays show a society where people never leave their chairs. Meals are served in liquid form, screens provide constant entertainment, and everyone wears identical outfits. It's a lifestyle built around ease and automation, but at the cost of independence and awareness. Wall-E attempts to squeeze past a passenger on the high-speed transit car to reach Eve, but he struggles to get through. The woman in the seat doesn't even notice him, completely absorbed in her screen. Thinking quickly, Wall-E switches off her display. Startled, she finally looks up and notices the quirky little robot beside her. Amused by his presence, she kindly makes room so he can get closer to Eve. Wall-E's odd but endearing behavior begins to leave a lasting impression on the people he meets. The woman, now paying attention to her surroundings, realizes for the first time that there's a massive pool nearby, something she never noticed before. As Wall-E continues his journey, he even waves to a nearby security droid. The robot, confused but intrigued, awkwardly tries to wave back, clearly not used to such gestures. Eventually, Wally reaches the ship's control deck, bringing Eve with him. A scanning bot examines Eve and triggers a notification for the ship's captain. A section of the floor opens up to reveal the captain's private chamber, but in the process, Wally accidentally tumbles down into the room below. The captain, just waking from his slumber, finds Wally already inside. Trying not to raise suspicion, Wally imitates one of the automated assistants and starts giving the captain a foot massage, while other bots begin grooming and preparing him for the day. Later on, Wally accidentally finds himself back on the command deck. Realizing where he is, he quickly hides as the ship's captain begins reviewing a detailed update on the vessel's systems. Everything appears to be running smoothly, prompting the captain to announce a milestone. It's now the 700th year of what was originally a 5-year journey. Moments later, the lead operating robot informs the captain that one of their exploration units has returned, and it's carrying a positive reading. This catches the captain off guard, as none of their previous missions had ever produced such results. Soon after, Eve is powered back on, much to Wally's joy. As she comes online, the ship's systems trigger a high-priority alert. The bridge seals itself, and a confidential video begins to play. In the recording, a figure of authority from Earth congratulates the captain and crew. The probe has successfully detected signs of plant life, signaling that a distant planet might finally be able to support human habitation again. In the confidential message, a leader from Earth announces that it's finally time for humanity to return home, the long-awaited moment to begin rebuilding their civilization. The instructions are simple. Follow the guide and use the provided steps to initiate the return. Wall-E, trying to be helpful, offers the captain the manual, which states that placing the discovered plant into the ship's designated core, known as the hollow detector, will trigger a rapid jump back to Earth. While the captain attempts to make sense of the manual, Wall-E joyfully reunites with Eve. She's surprised to see him aboard the station and urges him to stay hidden, worried about the consequences. But Wall-E, clearly enchanted by her, is more focused on being close than staying safe. Meanwhile, the captain proceeds to follow the steps outlined in the guide. But when he tries to retrieve the plant from Eve, something unexpected happens. It's missing. Multiple scans confirm it's no longer inside her. Distressed, Eve frantically searches the ship, hoping she might have lost it somewhere. The captain begins to suspect something is wrong with her programming and questions her reliability. Eve, feeling both embarrassed and misunderstood, assumes Wall-E may have taken or hidden the plant. The moment becomes tense, with both the captain and Eve expressing doubt and disappointment. Eve is escorted to the repair and diagnostic section, while Wall-E has a brief interaction with the ship's captain. At first, the captain is startled by the strange little robot, but Wall-E's gentle nature quickly puts him at ease. Amused and curious, the captain orders the crew to give Wall-E a proper cleaning. Once they leave, the captain examines some grime collected from Wall-E's frame and is surprised to learn that it originates from Earth's surface. Intrigued, he begins studying old records and becomes completely captivated by images of the long-forgotten planet. Meanwhile, during the maintenance journey, Eve keeps her distance from Wall-E, still upset about the missing plant. Their silence continues until they reach the workshop, where she is powered down for evaluation. Wall-E, concerned, watches helplessly as she is wheeled away. He narrowly avoids being deactivated himself and is instead cleaned and placed in a holding area for malfunctioning robots, secured behind a force field. From his cell, Wall-E watches anxiously as Eve undergoes a routine scan. Misinterpreting the procedure, he believes she's being harmed. Without hesitation, he breaks free and rushes to her aid, attacking the technician robot conducting the diagnostics. In the chaos, the control panel is damaged, causing a system failure that accidentally releases all the other malfunctioning bots. The freed robots, grateful for their unexpected liberation, rally around Wall-E, treating him as their hero and liberator. The malfunctioning bots, thrilled to be free, lift Wall-E onto their shoulders and parade him around in celebration. Meanwhile, Eve races after them, trying to regain control of the situation. Their noisy escape doesn't go unnoticed. Security droids intercept the group and try to detain them. Wall-E panics, but Eve steps in, shielding him from harm. The security system snaps a photo of the two and broadcasts it throughout the ship, labeling them, along with the other bots, as rogue units. Now fugitives, the group flees as alarms echo through the halls. Acting quickly, Eve hides behind a large viewing window, waiting for the patrols to pass. Once the coast is clear, she ushers Wall-E into an elevator. As it ascends, Wally excitedly points to their wanted image now displayed on a nearby screen. Eve, visibly frustrated, destroys the display to keep him quiet. Though she's annoyed by the mess they've gotten into, Eve still wants to do what's right. She takes Wally to the ship's escape pod bay, hoping to send him safely back to Earth. But when she doesn't step inside with him, Wally refuses to leave, unwilling to go without her. Suddenly, someone enters the escape pod bay, prompting Wally and Eve to quickly conceal themselves by folding into compact, cube-like shapes. It turns out to be a cleaning robot, carrying the missing plant. Without noticing them, it carefully places the plant inside one of the escape pods and exits. Overjoyed, Wally recovers the plant. But before he can show it to Eve, the pod suddenly activates and launches with him trapped inside. The escape system locks in, and Wally is blasted into space. From the hangar, Eve watches in shock. Wasting no time, she propels herself after the pod. But inside, Wally struggles, pressing every button he can find in a desperate attempt to stop the countdown. The pod, set to self-destruct, refuses to respond. He even tries to smash the glass with a fire extinguisher, but nothing seems to work. Just before Eve can reach him, the pod explodes. She stares at the wreckage, devastated, until, to her amazement, Wally bursts through the smoke and debris unharmed, zipping around in space using the extinguisher as a makeshift jetpack. He presents the plant to her, safe and sound. Overcome with relief, they embrace and gently float together in zero gravity. For a moment, they swirl among the stars, hugging, spinning, and even sharing a small spark of a kiss. Together, the two celebrate in space, flying joyfully around the massive ship as the stars shimmer beyond the glass. The two humans who had previously interacted with Wally, now more aware of their surroundings, smile and cheer for the little robot and his companion. They even reach out to one another, choosing to share the moment together, rather than remain absorbed in their screens. When Wally's makeshift propulsion finally runs out, Eve gently takes hold of him and glides back toward the ship. Once inside, they quietly sneak aboard, avoiding detection. Trying to lighten the mood, Wally plays soft music and shyly attempts to hold Eve's hand, but she's focused on something else, the plant. She instructs Wally to stay hidden while she makes her way to the command deck. There, she finds the captain in his quarters and delivers the recovered plant, completing the mission she was sent for. The captain is thrilled by the possibility of returning to Earth. He begins reviewing footage recorded by Eve, expecting to see a lush and thriving world. Instead, he's shocked to witness a wasteland of dust and debris, far removed from the green landscapes shown in the old archives. Meanwhile, Eve reflects on her time with Wally. A clip from her own memory shows the little robot trying to hold her hand, just like a tender moment on the screen. Plays more of the footage and realizes how cared for her all along. Reviewing her recordings, she sees how Wally stayed by her side the entire time she was inactive, shielding her from the elements and patiently waiting until they could be together again. Back in the present, Wally starts to feel uneasy. Concerned about Eve's absence, he decides to find her, climbs through a waste chute, and eventually reaches the ship's control center. At the same time, the captain is preparing to initiate the return journey to Earth, but the ship's autopilot unit, Otto, defies his command, insisting that they're not allowed to go back. Confused, the captain demands an explanation. Otto then plays an old message from the ship's original commander, a recorded warning stating that Earth had become too toxic to support life and that a return was no longer safe due to the failure of cleanup efforts. The automated system is still obeying that last directive, issued centuries ago. However, the captain argues that the situation must have improved over time. After all, a plant was found. That alone proves Earth is healing. Otto refuses to comply and summons a robot to restrain the captain, but the captain resists. One of the bots grabs the plant and hurls it down the waste chute, only for Wally to reappear, clutching the plant, bringing hope back to the room. Wally quickly secures the plant inside his body, but Otto responds with force, electrocuting him until his systems shut down and he tumbles lifelessly into the trash chute. Otto also powers down Eve and locks the captain in his cabin. Eve eventually powers back on, only to discover that she's in a massive garbage processing area, where waste is compacted into cubes and launched into space. She spots Wall-E fused to one of the cubes. She blasts herself free and attempts to rescue him, but he's trapped tightly. As the chamber prepares to eject the cube into space, the diligent cleaning bot unexpectedly arrives, having followed Wall-E's trail of dirt. With urgency, Eve pulls with all her strength, finally freeing Wall-E just as the vacuum of space pulls them out. Luckily, the small cleaning bot becomes wedged in the airlock just in time, stopping the release process. However, Wall-E has taken serious damage. His circuits are failing, and he can barely function. Eve begins frantically scavenging the dump site for compatible components, but everything she finds is too modern for his outdated design. Seeing her efforts and knowing time is short, Wall-E gives her the plant, urging her to complete the mission and help bring humanity back to Earth. But Eve refuses to leave his side, choosing him over her programming. When Wall-E pulls out the small lighter, the item that once fascinated her, she suddenly recalls that returning to Earth could offer a chance to properly repair him. Determined, Eve picks up Wall-E and the helpful cleaning bot and fights her way out of the trash zone. The rebellious robots witness her take down one of the enforcer droids and hear Wall-E's familiar song playing again. Inspired, they join her cause, and together, the group pushes forward, fighting to reach the command center of the ship. The captain manages to override the ship's central interface and secretly transmits instructions to Eve and Wall-E, directing them to place the plant into the navigation module. Otto, realizing what's happening, sends his security bots after them, but the rebel robots step in to protect the pair. Meanwhile, the captain outsmarts Otto, freeing himself and initiating an emergency green alert across the vessel. This triggers all service units to begin readying the passengers for their return journey to Earth. Amidst the chaos, the containment pod for the plant is released, but Eve struggles to insert it due to the ship rocking violently from the confrontation between Otto and the captain. People are sliding across the floors, and John and Mary step in heroically to keep the infants safe. Eve prevents a massive object from crushing a group of passengers. Just as she's about to complete the task, Otto slams the pod shut. In a selfless act, Wall-E wedges himself into the mechanism to keep it open, taking severe damage in the process. Witnessing this, the captain, motivated and resolute, stands on his feet for the first time and disables Otto for good. With order restored, everyone unites to deliver the plant to Eve, who successfully activates the navigation system. However, Wall-E is unresponsive. With the ship's course now locked in, it jumps through hyperspace and reaches Earth within seconds. Once landed, Eve carries Wall-E back to his shelter and uses his personal repair tools to fix his body and restore his energy with solar power. Physically, he's whole again, but something still seems off. After being repaired, Wall-E no longer recognizes Eve or even his insect companion. His memory is wiped, and he reverts to his original factory behavior, methodically sorting trash, unaware of the bond he once shared with Eve or the journey they had taken together. Eve, heartbroken, tries to reach out to him. She attempts to remind him of their connection by holding his hand, something Wall-E had always longed for. At first, he doesn't respond, but then a spark of recognition flashes through him. In a powerful moment, Wall-E says her name. Eve, overwhelmed with joy, embraces him tightly. The moment becomes magical as they begin to move together in a gentle, familiar rhythm to Wall-E's beloved tune. Their connection has been restored. Meanwhile, the captain begins showing the returning humans how to plant seeds and nurture life again, taking the first steps toward restoring the Earth. With time, people start adjusting to gravity, learning how to care for the planet they once abandoned. The story closes with Wall-E and Eve together on Earth, surrounded by signs of new beginnings. As humanity rebuilds and nature begins to thrive again, the two robots remain side by side, symbols of hope, love, and resilience. That wraps up my take on the film Wall-E, a beautiful journey through space, love, and second chances. If you enjoyed this story breakdown, make sure to tap like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more exciting sci-fi movie summaries and reviews. Drop a comment below. Which moment from Wall-E stayed with you the most? I'd love to hear what moved you. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.